Hello guys, my name is Gia and I promise this is the only video you will need to start sewing. If you've been wanting to sew for a while and don't know where to start, well you've just landed onto the right video. I have made this beginner sewing course that will teach you all the must-know skills and knowledge to start sewing. This video is separated into sections starting at level 0 so you can learn one thing at a time, and I've kept the information simple so it is easy to understand. Let's have a look at the learning roadmap so you know how it works. In section 1, you will learn about all the must-have tools for sewing, where to buy these and stay on a budget. In section 2, you will start learning about your sewing machine, going over the basic components, how to set it up and use it. In section 3, you will start practicing sewing using the sewing practice sheets, which I will go over in a bit. After completing this section, you will have the basic skills needed to start sewing and use your sewing machine. The last section is all about troubleshooting. Sewing machine issues are super common, ask anyone who sews. But don't worry, in this section I'll walk you through the most common problems and how to fix them.
Section 1. Build your sewing kit.
Getting all the tools and materials needed to start sewing can be costly, but I don't want that to be the reason that you don't take up sewing. This guide will help you pick the right tools while sticking to your budget. So here's the rule. Spend most of your budget on the sewing machine because it's the most important piece of equipment you will need. For the other tools like fabric scissors, you don't need to go all out. Just get the ones that are sufficient to get you started, and as you get better in sewing and you know what you like, you can upgrade your tools slowly. This will help you get all the tools you need on a budget. The first thing we'd want to get is the sewing machine. Now, depending on your budget, decide whether you want to buy this new or second hand. Both are great options, so let's explore both. For the second hand option, start by exploring online marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree. Set it to your local area and see what you can find. I was able to find several sewing machines for as little as £20. If you come across a sewing machine that can sew straight and do a zigzag stitch, that is good enough to start off with. If you want more information, you can pause the video and look at these other options that you can go for. Now, if your budget allows you to spend more, and if you can, I would recommend you to get Brother LS14S manual stitch sewing machine. This is a great beginner-friendly sewing machine and has everything that you can need to start. And this is the sewing machine I will be using in the video to teach you everything. I will link this in the bio for you to order. Some of the links in the description are affiliate links, which means I may earn a small commission if you purchase through them. I have linked all the tools I recommend in this section available in your country, and if you buy through these links, it helps support my channel. Thank you. Now let's get back to the video. I will go over this machine in depth later on in the video, but here are quick key features, pros and cons. It comes with 14 built-in stitches, therefore it allows you to do a lot. It's fairly easy to use, beginners reporting that they were able to get started off quickly with threading and selecting stitches. It has a drop-in bobbin which is easier for beginners and less fiddly. However, it is not powerful enough for sewing several layers of thick fabric. But if you're a beginner, you're likely not to sew with such heavy material, so this should be suitable for you. While you wait for that sewing machine to arrive, let's get the rest of your tools. Most of these tools I've got from my local supermarket, so when you go for your weekly grocery shop, you can pick these up. Let's start off with the must-have tools. Next thing on our list is going to be fabric shears or scissors. To start off with, you don't need the most expensive one, just something that is sufficient. I got this one from my local supermarket for under £5 and it cuts really well. One tip to keep your fabric scissors sharp is to never cut anything other than fabric with an even paper. To cut paper, get a separate pair of scissors from stores like Poundland or use the ones you might already have. Next thing on our list is going to be a seam ripper. This tool helps remove stitches if you make a mistake, and trust me, we are going to need it. I got this from the local supermarket for under £2. We are also going to need pins to hold the fabric in place while sewing. They help keep everything aligned and make sewing much easier. I was able to find this at a few different stores ranging from £1 to £1.50. You are also going to need thread. To start with, go with all-purpose polyester thread as it is flexible and works with all kinds of fabric. At the local supermarket, I was able to get this for under £2, and at the top you can see it has a composition so you know what type of thread it is. One thing I would advise you is to not buy cheap threads, as these will break easily in your sewing machine, making the experience a lot painful. If you want to buy more than one thread, then don't buy every single one from the supermarket. Instead, get these ones that I will link below, as you will get more value for your money. For the same price as the supermarket ones, you get a lot more, as you can see, and these come in a pack of few. We will also be needing a measuring tape for your measurements. You can find these at a lot of shops, ranging between £1 to £2. Marking tools are next on the list. For this, you can use a lot of tools as long as they mark well. You can use markers, pencils, and pens that you may already have. I got some of these crayons and chalks from the kids section and see these work really well. You will also need some marking tools for temporary marking so these come off. For this, you can get washable chalks from kids section, and if you can't find any, I will link Tailor's chalk in bio and it will work like this. You will also need hand sewing needles for securing fabric in place before sewing or other adjustments. You will also need small trimming scissors to trim off loose threads during sewing. This will make things easier. I was able to find one for £3 at the local supermarket. Now we will look at optional tools. These are good to have but not a must. A pin cushion keeps your needles and pins safe and within easy reach. If I'm being honest, you don't even need to buy this. You can easily make it yourself as a great beginner sewing project with some leftover scrap material. Having a big ruler can be very useful because it will make marking and joining straight lines a lot easier and cleaner. Seam gauge is a small ruler with a sliding marker. It is used to measure hems, seams, and folds accurately. This will make markings like seam allowances a lot easier to do. A thimble is a small metal or plastic cap with a closed end. It is worn to protect the finger and push the needle through in sewing. Last thing we are going to need is going to be a storage box to keep all your sewing supplies in one place. For this, you can use any box that you might already have, such as a shoe box, biscuit tin, or an old container. You may be able to find a supply box like this in your local supermarket. Guys, if you don't want to go out and make purchases in person, or you might not have access, then I will link a few of these beginner sewing kits in the bio for you to choose from. These kits are budget friendly and should be good enough to start off with, as these pretty much include everything on our list. Even though these kits come with threads, I recommend investing in better good quality threads. I will also link these in the bio. I will also link a Tailor scissors for you to get if you need, and some marking tools if you run out.
Section 2. Get to know your sewing machine.
We will start this section by learning about the items that come with your sewing machine and what these are for. Then we will look at all the components of your sewing machine and their functions. So let's get started. After unboxing your sewing machine, you will have the following items. First thing will be your sewing machine. You will also get a foot pedal which controls the speed of your sewing machine, allowing you to start and stop. You will also get a few bobbins. A bobbin is a small spool that holds a lower thread in your sewing machine. Another item that you will get would be a zipper foot. This allows you to sew close to a zip easily. You will also get a buttonhole foot. This will help you sew buttonholes that are right size for your button. You will also get a pack of needles and a screwdriver to change your needles. Keep these items aside for now and let's get to know your sewing machine. We are going to start off with the power switch. This turns the machine on and off and is plugged in like so. Then you have a spool pin at the top. This holds your sewing thread in place and feeds it to the sewing machine. Next thing we are going to look at is your bobbin winder. This transfers the thread from the spool into the bobbin, ensuring the thread is wound evenly and kept under proper tension. Next are thread guides. These are markings on your sewing machine that help you thread the machine. You'll also have this dial in the middle which is called the tension dial. This controls how tight or loose the thread is while sewing. When I set the dial to 9, which is the loosest setting, these are the results you will get in your stitching. As you can see here, the thread appears very loose. On the other hand, setting the tension to 0, which is the tightest stitch setting, will make the stitches very tight and may bunch or wrinkle the fabric. Keep your tension dial between 3 and 5 because that usually gives you nice and even stitching for most projects. Next thing we are going to look at is the presser foot. This holds the fabric down while sewing. We also have a needle. This paces the fabric to make stitches. Next is the needle clamp screw. This holds your needle in place and you can unscrew it to change the needle. There's also something called feed dogs. Feed dogs are small toothed metal bars under the needle. They grab the fabric and move it backward after each stitch, helping your sewing stay even. Next, we will be looking at the bobbin case. This slides open like this and holds the bobbin in place underneath the needle. Next part is throat plate. This is a metal plate underneath the needle with guidelines and seam allowances for sewing straight. As you can see, there are measurements for each line. This will allow you to sew straight on your chosen seam allowance. As you can see, I have aligned my fabric edge with one of the lines. This will allow me to sew straight throughout. We will look at the stitch selector next. This allows you to change the stitch size and style by rotating. Next thing on the list is the hand wheel. This allows you to manually move the needle up and down by rotating it. Next thing we are going to look at is the reverse button. This makes the sewing machine sew backward to lock stitches. This is used at the start and at the end of stitching. You also have something called a foot lever. This is located behind your needle and your presser foot, and it raises and lowers the presser foot like this. Next one is removable free arm. This is a detachable section that creates a narrow work surface, ideal for sewing cuffs, sleeves, and other circular or smaller items. You can also use it as a storage compartment for some of your bigger sewing accessories. The last thing in your sewing machine we will be looking at will be the thread cutter. This will allow you to easily cut the thread when you finish sewing like this. Now that you know your sewing machine, let's get it ready for sewing. So in this section, I will show you how to plug in your sewing machine, how to wind and load the bobbin, how to thread the sewing machine, and tell you how the sewing machine works, and then we will start practicing. For this section, grab your sheet from the pack. This will include a checklist at the bottom which we will tick as we complete. This section is a follow along, so get ready to follow.
Plugging in your sewing machine.
Start by placing your sewing machine on a sturdy table close to a power source. If needed, use an extension cord. Plug the foot pedal into the sewing machine like this. Then plug into the wall socket and tuck the cord behind the desk if that helps. Then place your foot pedal on the floor where your feet can comfortably reach it.
Winding the bobbin.
For this section, you will need a bobbin and a spool of thread. Also make sure that your sewing machine is switched off to avoid any accidents. A bobbin might come preloaded in your sewing machine. To get this out, lift the presser foot lever, then slide open the bobbin case. And get the empty bobbin out and put the cover back on. Now pull the spool pin up and place your thread on top. Then grab the end of your thread and follow the guide's mark on your sewing machine. Loop the thread under and around the disc, crossing it over and pulling it gently. Now grab your bobbin and pull the thread through the hole at the top. Then wrap the thread around a few times towards you. Then place the bobbin on the winder and push it to the right to lock in place. Also trim this little thread at the top. Then switch on your sewing machine and press down on your foot pedal and your bobbin will start winding. You can also gently hold the thread in place if it's moving too much. Once done winding, your bobbin will stop moving. Then push the bobbin to the left to unlock and take it off the winder. Then trim it off, and now we will load it into the bobbin case. Again, for this step, switch off your sewing machine and lift the presser foot lever. Then slide open the bobbin case and drop the bobbin in. Make sure that the thread is coming off from the left side. Then hook the thread into the slit like this and pull it through. Put the cover back on and you're done loading your bobbin.
Threading the top thread.
Start by unwinding your thread from the last time and we will start over. Place your thread on the spool pin and pull the thread through the first guide. Then bring the thread down like this and go around the bottom and then up on the left side. Then pull the thread into the take-up lever. If your lever is now raised, then use the hand wheel and bring it to the top like this. And pull the thread through. Then bring the thread down, passing it through the remaining guide above the needle. Then put your thread through the needle like this from front to back, and if your thread is not passing through easily, then you can trim the edge to make it neater. Then gently pull the thread through. Turn the hand wheel towards you to lower the needle. This will catch the bobbin thread. Once the top thread loops to the right like this, then we will pull both of the threads out. Pull on the upper thread. This will draw up the bottom thread, and then pull both. Well done, you have now finished threading your machine.
How does your sewing machine work?
Here's how a sewing machine works. There's a threaded needle above the fabric. When it pierces the fabric, a rotating shuttle hook below catches the thread. As the hook spins, it spreads the needle's thread, looping it around a threaded spool called a bobbin. The two threads knot and form a stitch, holding the pieces of fabric together.
This section is not a follow along. I just want you to watch and get a feel for how the sewing machine works, so you will feel more confident when starting the next practice exercise. I'm going to start by telling you how we should place and align a thread and fabric. First thing, lift the presser foot and tuck the thread from underneath the foot front to back, leaving at least 2 inches of thread tail. Then place your fabric under the needle, sliding it back until it reaches just behind the presser foot like this. You can also line up the edge of your fabric with one of the seam allowance markings to help you sew straight and evenly. Then drop down the presser foot and you can start sewing. Once you're done sewing, to remove the fabric, make sure that the needle is raised and also lift the presser foot. You can also use the hand wheel if needed to loosen the thread and gently pull out the fabric and trim the thread. Never pull on fabric while sewing or removing it. Just use your hands to gently guide it through with light pressure. Now I'm going to show you how to use the foot pedal to control the speed of your sewing. Think of the foot pedal like a car accelerator. The more you press, the faster the machine goes. Start by placing your foot gently on the foot pedal. Give it a light press to see how slowly the machine can sew. If you press down a bit more, the machine will sew faster. In the next exercise, we will start the sewing practice. Then you can find a pace that feels comfortable and steady for you.
Section 3. Practice time.
In this section, we will start with the sewing practice using the sewing practice sheets. Lastly, we will do a sewing practice on real fabric using scrap fabric. After completing this section, you will know how to sew using a straight stitch, changing to different stitch types and sizes, how to sew a hem, how to use zigzag stitch to finish off edges, and you will also learn how to control and move the fabric while sewing.
Straight stitching.
This is a basic straight line of stitching which you will be using in most of your sewing projects. Grab your practice sheet and lift the presser foot using the lever at the back. Also make sure your needle is raised and your threads are tucked in underneath the foot neatly. Then place your sheet under the needle and lower the presser foot. Now gently press on the foot pedal to start sewing slowly. Also gently rest your hands on the sheet to help guide it and keep it steady as you sew. Sew straight along the line until you reach the end and then stop. To remove the sheet, lift the presser foot and raise the needle if needed, then gently pull the sheet out. You might also need to turn the hand wheel gently to loosen the threads and make it easier for you to pull the sheet out. And then lastly, trim off the threads. Then repeat the same for each of the lines. If you like, you can choose a different stitch length for each of the lines to see how they look and feel, or you can just carry on. To change the stitch, we will need to use the stitch selector dial. Before changing the stitch, make sure that your needle is raised all the way up. You can do this by turning the hand wheel towards you. To change the stitch, gently rotate the dial until the stitch you want lines up with the marking on the machine. For each line, you can use a different stitch to try it out and see how it looks. Continue sewing along each line and don't forget to tuck your thread neatly under the presser foot before you begin each time. To remove, lift the presser foot and raise the needle if needed, then gently remove the sheet and trim all loose threads. Once you finish, your sheet will look something like this, and you should have learned how to start and stop sewing and sew in a straight line. Also, do not worry if your lines are not perfectly straight. This is just practice, so it's completely okay to make mistakes as you learn. Reverse stitching, also known as back stitching, is sewing backwards at the start and at the end of stitching. This locks the stitches in place so they don't unravel. As you can see, I have sewn here without any back stitching and it easily unravels. On this example, I have backstitch at the start and you can see the stitching is secure. That is why it is important for us to learn how to backstitch. For this, follow the same steps we have learned in the last exercise. The only thing you need to do different is press down the reverse lever to make sure the machine sews backwards at the start and at the end of stitching. Then when you reach the end, press down the reverse lever to lock the stitches and take off as normal. Then repeat for each line. Now that you know the basics, let's build on these skills with some practice exercises. These activities will help you learn how to move and control the fabric as you sew, and they'll boost your confidence. For this, align and drop the presser foot as normal and start sewing, remembering to reverse stitch at the start. When you get to this point, stop. Then lift the presser foot and rotate the sheet and drop the presser foot again and start sewing. Once you reach the point, stop again and repeat. If you want, you can also lower the needle like this using the hand wheel and then lift the presser foot and then rotate. Then drop the presser foot and carry on sewing. This will keep your needle aligned with the lines and make it easier. If you go over the lines at any point, it is completely fine. Don't stress too much. You are supposed to make mistakes as you learn. Then finish up with the reverse stitch and remove the sheet. Then repeat for the rest of the lines. This exercise follows the same concept and will help boost your confidence even more. So start sewing as normal and stop at the corner. Then lift the presser foot, rotate the sheet and start sewing again. Repeat this at each corner. This exercise is a little more challenging because you'll be sewing along a spiral instead of straight lines. It is designed to teach you how to handle curves, which means you need to move the sheet carefully as you sew. Get your practice sheet and start sewing slowly, as this will allow better control. As you move along the spiral, rotate your sheet like I am. Go slowly to keep in control. If you have come off the spiral and need to get back on track, don't forcefully drag the sheet. Instead, stop sewing, lift the presser foot and gently rotate the sheet to realign with the spiral. Then lower the presser foot and continue sewing. Don't worry if your stitching doesn't perfectly align with the spiral, this is just practice. A hem is the finished edge at the bottom of the piece of clothing or fabric. It is created by folding the raw edge under once or twice and then sewing it down. This prevents fraying and gives a neat look. There are many different types of hems, but in this video we will learn how to do the most common double turn hem. Now get your sheet and fold on the first line on the right. Then fold again on the second line. After folding, place the folded edge underneath the needle and the presser foot, and then start sewing, remembering to reverse stitch at the start and when you finish. Finishing off edges is the process of neatening the raw edges of your fabric so they don't fray or unravel over time. It is an important step in your sewing that helps your garment or your project last longer and look more polished on the inside. There are many different ways of finishing the edges. We will be using the zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. Grab your sheet and set your machine to stitch number 3, which is a zigzag stitch. Practice sewing along the lines on the left using this setting. Then fold on the line on the right and prepare to start sewing. When placing your sheet to finish off the edge, leave about 2 mm gap between the edge of the sheet and the needle, just like this. Now that you've gained all the core skills, we are going to combine them in this final exercise. Start at the top edge by folding it down twice. Then start sewing to secure in place. Remember to reverse stitch at the start and when you finish. This covers straight stitching, reverse stitching and sewing hems. Once you get to the end, finish off with the reverse stitch and take off. Then repeat the same for the rest of the edges of the sheet. After sewing all the edges, we will finish them off using the zigzag stitch like we did earlier. When doing this, remember to leave a gap where the foot is and to change the stitch setting. Now that you have these core sewing skills, let's test them on some real fabric. This is an optional exercise. We will be using scrap fabric to practice. For this, you can use any old scrap fabric that you can find. Iron your fabric out if it's too wrinkly. This will make cutting more accurate. We want to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are the same size. Aim for at least 6 by 6 inches and don't make it too small or they'll be too tricky to work with. After marking, pin both pieces of fabric together. Then cut on marked lines. Start by setting up the sewing machine like we've been doing. Then get your fabric and place it underneath the needle and foot like this. You can also choose one of these seam allowances by aligning your fabric with one of these lines. This will allow you to sew straight consistently. Now we will zigzag the edges to finish off. Before you start, make sure your fabric is placed properly and you have this gap. Then change to zigzag stitch and start sewing. After completing zigzag, remove the pins and now we will sew a hem. Start by placing your fabric wrong side up. Then turn over the top edge and iron to set in place. Then fold over once more and iron again. Then start sewing to secure in place. This is what your finished piece will look like. Now grab your practice sheet from the pack and we will stick this on. If you want, you can use a stapler or tape if you don't have glue stick. If you think you need more practice, then you can repeat this step a few times.
Bonus section, troubleshooting.
In this section, I'll go over the most common sewing problems and how to fix them. So when you have got an issue, you can refer to this section and fix the issue. First, always make sure you're using the correct needle and thread for your fabric. This simple step can prevent many common sewing problems. This is basic fabric, thread to needle guide that you can use, or check your manual for more details. Issue 1, Thread bunching, bird's nest under fabric. The most common cause is incorrect threading. Rethread both the top thread and the bobbin. Reason 2, the bobbin might be scratched or damaged so may not wound evenly, replace it with another one. Reason 3, the thread tension may be too loose, adjust it with the tension dial. To change the tension on a sewing machine, turn the tension dial. A higher number makes the stitches tighter, and a lower number makes them looser. Adjust gradually and test on scrap fabric until the stitches look balanced. Reason 4. There may be lint or dust in bobbin case which can block smooth thread movement. Clean under the needle plate and bobbin area regularly. Check your sewing machine manual to know how to clean properly. Issue 2, Top thread breaking. This happens when your top thread keeps snapping while sewing, or when stitches don't form properly and stop. How to fix it? Check your thread, make sure you're using good quality thread. Low quality thread often breaks. All-purpose polyester thread works well for most projects. Trusted brands include Gutermann Soal, Coates & Clark Dual Duty XP, and Mettler Metrocene. I have linked some good recommendations in bio. Solution 2. Rethread the machine. The thread may not be seated correctly. Remove it and rethread carefully. Solution 3. Adjust tension. If the tension is too tight, it can cause breakage. Lower the tension slightly and test again. Solution 4. Check the needle. A blunt, bent, or incorrectly inserted needle can also cause snapping. Replace or reinsert the needle if needed. How to change the needle on a Brother LS14 sewing machine. Step 1. Turn off the machine. Always switch off and unplug your machine before changing the needle for safety. Also make sure you have unthreaded your machine. Step 2. Raise the needle and presser foot. Turn the handwheel until the needle is in its highest position. Lift the presser foot lever so the presser foot is out of the way. Step 3. Loosen the needle clamp screw. On the side of the needle bar, there's a small screw. Use a small screwdriver, or the one that came with your machine, to slightly loosen it. Step 4. Remove the old needle. Hold the needle with your fingers and pull it down gently to remove it. Step 5. Insert the new needle. There will be a flat side to your needle. Hold a new needle with the flat side facing the back of the machine. Push it up into the needle clamp as far as it will go. Step 6. Tighten the screw. Hold the needle in place and tighten the clamp screw securely with the screwdriver. Step 7. Check placement. Make sure the needle is fully inserted and straight before sewing. Tip: replace your needle regularly, every 6 to 8 hours of sewing, or sooner if it becomes bent, blunt, or breaks. Issue 3. Fabric being pulled down into the machine. Sometimes, while sewing, the fabric can get pulled down into the machine. This usually happens because of wrong or blunt needle, feed dogs not moving the fabric properly, incorrect tension, starting too close to the fabric edge, which pushes the fabric down. How to fix it. Step 1. Turn off your sewing machine and never pull the fabric out forcefully. Step 2. Lift the presser foot. Step 3. Using a screwdriver, unscrew and remove the throat plate. Step 4. Trim away any bunched up threads and carefully remove the fabric. Step 5. Screw the throat plate back on and rethread your machine. Prevention tips. Use the correct needle for your fabric. Don't start sewing right at the edge. Leave about 1 centimeter of fabric behind the presser foot before you begin. To learn more about troubleshooting issues, check your machine's manual. It will have a troubleshooting section. Also, look at the maintenance section to make sure your machine stays in good condition.
Now goodbye.